All right, we're here today with Allan Branch of formerly LessAccounting, the co-founder, and now into a little bit of Less Everything, literally is the name of his company. Allan, I'm going to let you dive into a little more of the details about what you're working on right now and what you've done since selling LessAccounting and kind of where things are heading. And then kind of, if you can, weave in there a 30-second background of how you got to here over the course of all this.
I'll start with the last question, which is the quick story is in 2008, we launched LessAccounting, my business partner and I. We bootstrapped it till it was profitable in about 2011, which means we slowly weaned down our consultancy projects because we were building software for people. And we had a team of like 8 or 9 at the time. We were a product company from like 2011-ish till recently in June or July when we sold LessAccounting. And now we're back to building software for people. And that's under the umbrella of Less Everything. We went back to the umbrella of Less Everything. Building software for clients, anyone who wants to focus on recurring revenue, mostly existing companies adding additional revenue streams is what we're finding. And also our video company, we started a video company in 2011 called Less Films, helping out Less Films writing scripts and talking to clients and doing some marketing. But they make explainer type videos, any type of video that helps you improve conversions in your web app. So lots of things. So that's the, then, now, present, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So what you're saying is you went from consulting to the holy grail of having a SaaS product that generates recurring revenue. And then you jumped ship to get back into consulting that everybody else in the world is trying to get away from. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. We ran a product company for 4 years. And it's not, everyone thinks it's the holy grail. It's just the grass is always greener. And it was great running a product company with steady revenue and a lot of organic search traffic with very little fires to put out. There was no downtime on the servers or lawsuits or anything. But we just found that we worked on the product for 8 years and we were just tired of working on the same problem and beating our head against the wall. And it was time just to shift to some new problems. And it's been a good decision. Of course, there's been regret and worry. Oh my gosh, I made the worst decision of my life. But so far, so good. Yeah.
So
back to product, back to building software for clients.
It was about a change of pace.
Just new problems,
Yeah.
We sold LessAccounting, and that was 8 years. And so it's not like we were like quitters. We didn't really give it the old college try. It was 8 years.
Were y'all passionate about accounting in that area beforehand, or did y'all just kind of stumble into it because you hated using QuickBooks and wanted to build something for yourself?
All of the above, right? Like it was my accountant said you should use QuickBooks, and I was like, I really just need an expense tracker, and he's like, no, you need QuickBooks, and we love small businesses because Steve and I both are like 3rd generation entrepreneurs, and so we do love that as well. And then I love solving like boring problems. I love HR software. I love all that kind of stuff. That stuff's fun to be like real business problems. It's not some new interface for some photo sharing app.
Yeah.
It's a real problem that's going to help people in a real business situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So you sold it. Can you kind of walk through the process of deciding to sell, committing, and then going through that to how it unfolded in terms of, you ended up working with FE International like I did with Sifter, and obviously some of that stuff you can't share, but how much of it can you tell how it all unfolded, how it went down, your regrets, your feelings, excitement, all that through the process?
You asked like 17 questions in one.
Just tell the story and give us all the insight in the dirt.
Right. Wrap it up in a beautiful FE International sale monologue.
Well, you don't have to do that. They are good guys though.
So Steve and I are product people. Like I'm a designer, he's a tech guy. Much like you, we know code, right? I don't know investment banking. I don't know how to sell a company, and so it was always like, what's our company worth? $79 million, or maybe it's worth 50 grand. I don't even know. And we just didn't know people bought those things. But then our friends started slowly selling their products, and we're like, oh, what was that like? And they're like, it wasn't really that bad. And so we're like, there is a way to exit. It wasn't like, we were desperate to do it or that was the plan. It was just merely we were ignorant of the process. Same order. It's almost the same reason why we chose bootstrapping. I don't know how to raise money. It's not like it was like some really conscious choice. I know product. We built product.
Yeah.
But it was FE International kind of popped on the radar a couple of years ago. And we were like, so we started talking to them, and the process took about a year. And my business partner really handled most of it. The team that took over, super cool. We had a bunch of letters of intent at the same time. And David at FE International just shields you from so many conversations of people who can't buy the product, who just want to talk to you, and people who are just sniffing around.
Yeah.
And so they do a really good job of protecting your time, and they're good guys, and they evaluate the products properly, I think. And so no regrets with FE International. They're like stellar, awesome dudes. But no regrets. There's certainly some days I wish it was like I could just, with LessAccounting, I literally took off the beginning of this year almost 3 months and just sat in the boatyard. I worked on my boat.
Yeah.
So yeah, having the product company is great. It's great. But it also, when you can't measure your time equals money, it's also kind of like, well, fuck it, I'm just not going to work today, because you can't really tell if you're doing things that matter, that actually change the needle, because it's such a long tail dollar bill sign from the time. But FE International was great. We didn't know how to sell the product, so we contacted them. They kind of walked us through it, and went from there.
So looking
back, I'm giving like the world's longest answers.
No, it's good. So looking back, and you obviously, you weren't so hands-on with the sale and the sale process, but looking back, if y'all could have done something different, like what did y'all learn during the process of trying to sell that made you kind of kick yourself for like, oh man, we should have done this better and it would have been easier to sell. It would have been less painful, that kind of
thing. Our books weren't, they were in good condition. So that's usually the first thing people talk about. It's like, oh, my bookkeeping was just a mess.
When you sell accounting software, I would kind of hope so.
It wasn't really that bad. They had to add a couple extra reports because LessAccounting didn't have some larger accounting filters. We ended up doing some SQL queries for that and building some reports that for some reason you need to when you buy a business. Some advanced balance sheet stuff, I think it was. Something like that. But no, there was no big lesson to be learned. I don't wish I sold it sooner. I don't wish we would have. I think we sold it at the right time. And so no, I don't have any regrets. I wish I had some big life lesson, but it was like, it's cool.
Well,
I mean, I wish I got more money. I wish we got more money, but whatever, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure you did it right, because you sold your company and then you literally are just posting selfies of you on a sailboat all day. So
it's not all day. The misconception is that I don't work. I do. I'm purpose about, like, I love sleep, and I can sleep till like 8:30 every day, but I wake up at 5:45 to have my whole afternoon off, right? It's being like like realizing I don't get much daylight and then much time with my kids, and so I'll get up before everyone else does and get more work done.
Yeah. No,
and so it's being like deliberate.
The same way, but not so much by choice, just kind of gravitated that way with kids.
Totally.
You get earlier and earlier and you're like, 5 o'clock, that's not early.
Right. And so people always go like, oh, you just work on your boat all day. I know you weren't, but some people do that. I'm like, no. I work an 8-hour day, 7.5, 8 hours. But I'll cut out at 2 o'clock and go have fun for a couple hours,
Yeah, absolutely. So with deciding to sell, kind of circling back real quick, did a switch just flip one day, or had that kind of been building up and y'all just didn't know how to sell? And then once you realized it was an option, you're like, well, crap, we're out of here.
Yeah, it was like immediately, no, like what FE, what? No, it was, we had been talking about it for several years, right? Because, we worked on it for 8 years. So probably in 2014, we had some conversations about what does an exit look like, or who would exit from us. And we had some talks with some people. But it was always just like, I don't know. Once we got into the FE sales funnel, we knew we wanted to sell. It was kind of like, it was almost like once you make a big decision, you're like, maybe our tipping point wasn't at the sale. It was really contacting FE International. It was like, okay, yeah, we're just going to do it. Fuck it, let's just go.
Yeah.
It was something we kind of talked about, and then we had a few friends do it, and then it was like, okay, then the ball's just going.
It's funny how much that parallels how it was with Sifter. I was like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, maybe. And then I talked to them and I was like, all right.
Yeah, it was like it's done. We're selling it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you're thinking about trading in your car or something, and like like a bird, you knock a mirror off on a mailbox. You're like, ah, fuck it, we'll just get rid of it. Yeah, it's like get out. I don't care who.
Like that.
No, don't put that in there. We did care.
Oh, so going back to the SaaS life, like what was the most difficult, stressful thing that y'all went through running an app?
It was self-imposed stress of, at least I feel that way, always second guessing every feature, thinking it's the next thing. That was the biggest, the revenue is very steady. And so there's, as opposed to consulting, which you get a big check and it's a very emotional high and then you have a cash flow issue. SaaS is and so there wasn't peaks and valleys. It was very low stress. And, on the level of 1 to 10, it was a 4, a 3, but a 4 or 3 the whole time. But there was never any major stress. We didn't have any doubt. It was always just going, damn it, why aren't we growing faster? Yeah. Why, how can we got tired of asking ourselves those questions and it was a self-imposed, like we should be doing better. Always feel like we should do better, and it was like a form of self-torture almost. I guess
it really is, right? No matter how fast you're growing, it's not fast enough. There's always, you could be growing more. And the question is, what am I doing wrong that I'm not growing more?
Yeah.
Right. We all talk to each other and somebody else is growing just a little bit faster. And it's like, well, how come I'm not doing that? What do I need to change? What am I doing wrong? And
yeah. Well, and then everyone writes these blog posts of like, this is how I raised my conversion 746% in 2 hours. And you're like, I just got to figure out what that one little thing is for us. That's all it is.
Absolutely.
Right? And so like we compare ourselves to these people who are given like this false reality of like how it really is. But
I think it's definitely too easy to get caught up in those comparisons. I know in the first few years I definitely got sucked into that, and it took me a while to be like, you know what, I'm doing well. Like I'm happy. Like why do I care what, if we're growing or not? Like where we are is good. I think that's a difficult thing to accept though. When you go into it, you expect and you have these hopes that it's going to be everything and more. And then when it falls even slightly short of our completely unrealistic goals, we're disappointed. It's like, wait a minute. Should we be disappointed, or was it our goals were crazy? And
yeah. I mean, the tech industry, because we're scalable, we think we can run at 40x of what a normal business would. A normal business can't handle 10% growth, unless there's some sort of inventory warehouse component where it's logistical. But like, a car wash can't handle 10%. A restaurant, they only have a certain number of tables. Yeah. And if you told them, oh, you're going to grow 20% next year, 10%, they would be like, oh my God, yes, right? Or you're going to be in business next year. Yeah. You're going to be in business. They'd be like, oh, thank God. My family ran car washes that they don't do that. They don't go up 3x in a year. Yeah. And so we have these unrealistic expectations of ourselves because we heard about this one urban legend guy that did that one thing. And so, it's crazy. It's a warped industry with unrealistic expectations.
There's a lot of room for more realistic expectations throughout, for sure. For sure. Going back to even before launching, if you could just pick one key thing, and it could be a big thing, it could be a little thing, that y'all would do differently, what would it be?
Well, you mean, so
anything.
In like the psychological sense, you could say like lower your expectation, which really was like we beat ourselves up constantly going like we should grow faster. So just go, hey, Allan. I'd be like, Allan, be prepared for a 5-year fight. Yeah. And just because it always felt like we needed that one feature. And so it was always, I would say, just slow down and just, and focus on growing traffic and not features, even though features is the thing you know how to build. Grow traffic faster and sooner. And it's not build it and they will come, that kind of stuff. So it's all conventional stuff that Amy Hoy teaches now. Yeah. That in 2008 and nobody was talking like this in 2008 and 2010. It was just like, what? No one. I mean, until 37 Signal started talking about getting real and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like all my wisdom now is like common knowledge. Like I'm like the old man who's just
right. It's common knowledge for you. there's so many people who are, just now starting to think about, oh, how can I create an app? Whether it was they didn't have enough experience and now they feel like they're there. They know how to build things, but they don't know how it actually unfolds and plays out. And so I think there's a lot of help there. I wish somebody had slapped me in the face and said, look, it's going to take you 5 to 8 years before, things are comfortable. And, at the time I would have been like, whatever, that's ridiculous. It'll take me 6 months tops.
Right.
So I think having realistic expectations is a huge part of it. And it's the thing that everybody overlooks, right? Because we know technology, but none of us think about that, the more soft side of building a business and the resilience that it takes and all that. So I think the more people hear that and understand that they're not going to blow up in 6 months, the more it helps people have realistic expectations. They don't want to try and quit their job in a blaze of glory and say, I'm out of here. I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow.
I talked to a guy, he's like senior year of college. He works with like my sister-in-law's mom, and he's a CS major, and he's interning right now at some place in Auburn. And he's like, I want to build an app. I'm like, well, or I want to build my own development agency. I was like, well, realize what that actual job is. You're not, he loves code. I'm like, you start a big company, you're not going to be coding.
Yeah.
You're going to get moved into a marketing sales role, grow in a company. Even if you have a consultancy, you turn into the salesperson or the manager. You don't. Yeah. And so realize what your job is going to be when you do that thing. And like, you can build a cool product that you like, but build a job that you hate. And so realize, like, build a job that you really want. Because for a few years I had a job that I didn't really want. And so realize what the job actually, the actual job is.
Yeah. Well, we all want to believe that we build a product and the product will be great and it'll sell itself. But, that can only get you so far. And it takes a lot more than that. So one of my favorite questions that I hear a lot, and I like this question because it's different for everybody. Where did your first customers come from? How'd y'all reach them?
Yeah, this is like, first customers is like 2007, right? Which is like right when Twitter came out or something. And blogs was like, people were using Blogspot and TypePad. And so our first customers were emailing. I was just like, Basecamp was the only people we could think of that was like an obtainable thing. It was like, we're going to be the Basecamp for accounting. We're going to be simple like Basecamp. And that was our tagline. And we made like a little splash page, but it wasn't called a splash page or a landing page. It was just called like a website with a form to collect emails. Yeah. That's what it was called. I mean, you remember that. It was probably a PHP form or something, and probably with no caption on it or anything like that. And so we just emailed like Web 2.0 bloggers. And and podcasters, and they were like, "Oh, sign up to this beta." It was like, "Get on a beta list. Get on a beta list." And so we emailed a bunch of those people, and so I'm sure one of those guys or gals was one of the first paying customers months later. But yeah, it was like just straight up old email and the email list. It was like 500 people or something.
Well, and now that's much more difficult because there's just so much noise. Everybody's like, "I'm not going to sign up for yet another beta list. I've got a million of these already."
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely a lot more difficult to pull that off. Okay, the question. So, through all of this, building SaaS, doing consulting now, what is it that gets you out of bed, right? That makes you excited every day to get to work on something?
Yeah, I certainly. So, also realize that, like, I don't skip out of bed. I do jump out of bed. I'm not like. Or it's not like, wee, it's more like, oh, what's going on today? Like, what's going to happen? Like, I don't really plan my day out. Like, I have calls and stuff, but I'm not like, I know exactly what I'm going to work on. So sort of the suspense of like, what am I going to work on today? What emails have come in? And I have overarching things I need to accomplish over the week, but I don't plan the actual days. And so just the like excitement of like knowing a project's going to be launched, or like, I don't know, there's just like energy that brims within the company that I'm excited to like experience and do. It sounds like super weird and almost hippie, but like, I'm just like, what are we going to work on today? And like, I like everyone that I work with. So it's like, what are we going to do today? Hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And it's just like, it's fun.
I don't think I would accept that answer from anybody other than you, but in your case, I think it.
Yeah. And if I'm just like, oh, I don't want to work today. I'm like, fuck it. I'm not going to work. So like we're not going out of business tomorrow. So like if there's a day that I really just am like, uh, yeah, I don't want to work today. It's like, and mostly that happens when it's like a really pretty day outside. It'll be like 72 degrees, blue skies, and I'll be like, man, I don't want to work today. And I'll be like, we won't go work, and I'll just go do something else, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really have like really truly days where I'm like, "Ugh." I just don't work. Like if there's an afternoon where I'm feeling like in a shitty mood, I just don't work. It's toxicity.
Yeah.
Nothing I do is going to be creative if I'm in a
It's
shitty
not going to
mood.
be, yeah, it's tough.
Right, and then I'm just going to bring toxicity into the company, and so I just don't work. But that doesn't happen very often. I'm a pretty positive person.
You are for sure. I want to talk about marketing a little bit. Y'all did a lot of content marketing for LessAccounting. And just the other day, I Googled for how to build my own office in the backyard. And guess who was at the top of the results? So you've got this down, right? Like you spent a lot of time doing that. Is that something that you knew would pay off? Is it something where you started seeing results and built on it, or you just kind of always are trying something new? What's your strategy behind all that?
Um, so there's a couple like answers I could say. Like I think content marketing is awesome, and running or doing content marketing can be awesome if you enjoy writing the articles. Again, it's about having a job you like. If you hate writing, if you like writing but you're writing crappy articles, you're
Yeah,
not gonna like that job. So it's always been how can I use these businesses and literally use as in like use and abuse. And Steve is the exact same way. How can we use these business to have a life that we want? And so it wasn't like my backyard office articles. There are articles, if you Google shed quarters or backyard office, I wrote a whole guide on literally the construction of building a backyard office, like building it with wood.
hmm,
And that wasn't because I was like, ooh, there's an SEO opportunity in here. It was literally, I wanted a backyard office.
yeah,
And how can I get the business to pay for this? How can I use this thing that I'm doing in my job and as a job? And how can I take off weeks and weeks and work on it and call it working?
yeah,
Right? And so we wrote a lot of content, but if you look at the content, it's our thing. It's like things like health insurance. Like when the Obamacare stuff came around, I
yep,
was like, I need to learn about Obamacare. I don't know anything about insurance, nothing. And so I spent 2 months calling insurance agents, reading things, and listening to podcasts. And I wrote a whole guide on buying insurance and what are little. So it wasn't like I was going, what's the SEO opportunity? I was writing stuff I really generally wanted to know. And then it just so happened there were some SEO opportunities that got us traffic. The problem with that traffic is they're not primed going like, oh, goody. I
yeah,
wanted to, you know what? I was looking to do a backyard office, and now I'm going to sign up for accounting software. They're not primed. And so you then shift your focus from getting that person back, getting them on email list, because you're not going to sell them you could sell them a $3 t-shirt, $10 t-shirt, but not accounting software in the first visit. It takes several points of touch. And so content marketing worked great for us, brought a lot of traffic and some conversions, and it gave us a much higher metric for when we sold the product too, because the marketing, we had like 110,000 unique visitors a month,
yeah,
which is for free.
hmm,
And so that brought a lot of value. They knew that the marketing was turnkey at that point.
yeah.
They could do keyword research. So yeah, content marketing was great for us, but we did it like on our own terms.
Yeah. So there's two things there that really resonate with me just based on my experience. One is create content that you care about. And so many people are like, "Oh, how can I game the system? How can I write something that's going to have the right headlines to get traffic?" Versus, you know what, I'm passionate about this. I can write about this. How does it tie back into what I'm doing every day?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to help you create better content to begin with because your motivation's in the right place, right? If you're just trying to game the system, it's not going to work, and you're just going to be completely beat down and exhausted and drained. And the other aspect is the value of that marketing for the business, right? So obviously it's valuable to business generating traffic, but then when you go to sell, it's actually getting you a higher multiple or a stronger multiple simply because they know that that traffic is reliable, because that organic traffic, that reliability, it was the same with Sifter. because I had done so much writing about bug and issue tracking and all of that, that there was plenty of organic traffic, and it helps make a clear path with some continuity. It's not like, oh, well, what happens if we turn off the marketing? The marketing is not going to get turned off overnight. Like, organic traffic can fade, but it's not going to disappear and dry up overnight.
Exactly.
So it's one of those things where, we get so caught up as developers and product people, we want to just design and build things, but there's a very clear value to the marketing, both for the business while you're running it, for selling it, for everything. And I think as developers, that's something that's hard to remind ourselves of, because we just want to go code and, commit code, ship code, and then wait for the money to roll in. When instead, you really got to tell people about it. If you launch an app and don't tell anybody, nobody cares. No matter if Slack launched and never told anybody, Slack wouldn't be where they are, right? You have to tell people. There's marketing involved.
Oh yeah, and I would take good marketing and a bad product before I'd take a great product with no marketing. Marketing is, it sells a bad product. QuickBooks, right? They're the industry leader, right?
So they're an unpleasant product, but people wouldn't use it if there was,
Well, sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little of both. And in hindsight, like I think back now that launching Sifter, I'm like, I should have spent about half my time on building it, half my time on marketing it. As much as I didn't enjoy marketing, like the reality is you have to do that, or nobody's going to know about it, and nobody's going to buy it.
And there are some wins you can do with SEO. I'm not going to say that we didn't write. There are some SEO articles. I wasn't writing them. I would do a little bit of keyword research. We can hire somebody to do keyword research, but I wouldn't put a lot of like onus in SEO. SEO is a long-term, 1 to 2 year type of a play that you can do a little bit of if the product is right. There was lots of articles we could wrote about like accounting-ish things.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of verticals don't have that advantage. But when you start playing the SEO game, it's an arms race. If you have competitors and you're doing SEO and they're doing SEO, it's not something. There's no differentiator in there. Like unless you're writing it really swayed to your personality, and so that's why content marketing. The only thing QuickBooks doesn't have and Xero doesn't have is us. And so if we're just straight playing the SEO game, they're going to win because they have, they spend $70 million a year. We were spending like 380 or something.
Yeah. And I think I'm not going to remember the exact wording, but on your homepage, it used to say, I don't know if it still does, all accounting software sucks. We just suck less. Right. And it's that personality that so many people too are afraid to have that personality, that point of view, and just put a stake in the ground and be like, here it is. But, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to comment on that either. I don't know how much, you quantified how that affected growth or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's having that opinion, having that stake in the ground, being able to make a statement and differentiate yourselves from all the other big players that are trying to be buttoned up accounting software. There's value in it, and everybody, their taglines and all the software is such and such simplified, right? Or like all these really, really crummy, dry taglines, as opposed to something like what y'all did, which is just embrace it and say, hey, here we are, and have that point of view. I think it goes so far with marketing too.
Yeah, I mean, we can't beat them with dollars or people or resources, so that we can only beat them with us. We certainly probably lost a few customers because of that, but we sort of vetted the people we didn't want to have.
Yeah.
And so sometimes your marketing, if you do it right, can scare away the right people before they become bad customers. And so I'm big into the right people need to be following you and contacting you, not everybody. So
well, and to that end too, a lot of the questions are, oh, how am I ever going to compete against, in your case, like QuickBooks, Xero? And it's like, don't play their game. By going the other way and playing a different game, you're putting yourself in a spot that they can't ever compete with you in because they're huge. And a lot of founders feel like that means, oh, well, I've got to be out there. I've got to be the face of the company. And that's not necessarily true. You could still have a personality and stake out a brand without being, having your face all over the software, being the voice of the software. So there's, I think, a lot of value for people to realize that and to kind of get a little more gutsy and say, you know what, let's be different. How can we be different? Go the other way.
And then not try to, like, my flavor isn't everyone else's flavor, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, if don't copy, do what makes you feel comfortable. And, there's a guy named Carlos. Carlos is an amazing Colombian Rails developer. He plays the accordion, but he doesn't tell anybody he plays the accordion. Like, I would, on my website, I would have me playing the accordion, right? Because he plays the accordion. I mean, how unusual is that and amazing, right? So it'd be like, hey, my name's Carlos. I'm a Rails developer, and I play the accordion. That's literally, I want to introduce myself. But some people are just kind of scared to be like, he's basically a closeted accordion player.
Well, and a lot of people are coming from backgrounds where they're working for large companies, and the company literally, not necessarily stifles them, but the company doesn't care if they're outspoken or have a personality. And so then all of a sudden you get into a situation where you're in charge, and it's hard to all of a sudden flip a switch and feel comfortable going in a different direction than what you spent your whole career doing.
It's true. It's true. It doesn't come natural. We tend to do things that feel natural to us. So like I've always just kind of been this way, and Steve's been himself, and so it's just been natural. It feels natural, and so that's why it's hard for me to teach that and tell people like you should, because that's just the way it feels like I should be.
Well, yeah, and you don't want to copy somebody else. You just want to find your own voice and embrace it, rather than try to be somebody you're not, because that's just as bad. But
I agree.
Right on. Well, we could probably end up talking all night, but we're about the ending point here. So I guess the last question is just, based on everything you've learned, if you could give one tip, one piece of advice to somebody else who wants to do something similar, what would it be? And it can't be don't do accounting software.
Right, which actually would, because it's a big market. And maybe that's it, right? It's don't attack such big markets. No one was saying this obvious thing. I feel like in 2007, no one was saying go to a vertical, find a niche. But I think Amy Hoy talks about small products and info products, but I would be looking very small and then looking for like what makes me successful in my eyes, like what makes me feel good, and set like actual numbers and just realize it's going to take a long time, and be kinder to yourself. And just more like sustainability, personality wise and physically and mentally, would be my advice. Would be kind of remembering those things, and then be yourself. It's all the same things we talked about tonight. I don't really have any sort of like, make sure you ask for the credit card first, and then the trial should be 16 days, not 14. And then, I don't have any of those really good tips, because I think all that just depends on the business that you're doing. It's all bullshit.
Well, and I think the tips you're giving are definitely the ones that people need to hear, because that's what people aren't talking about. And so I agree.
Well, that's all I got. I don't have any other deep insights. I'll just like take a vacation, be nice, go for a walk. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for taking the time. I'll get all this sorted out, get the logistics up, get the video up, keep you posted. Cool. But yeah, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. I'm sure everybody else will get a lot out of this too.
We'll see.
All right. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, man.